Hello, welcome to New Meta Podcast, episode 89. Wow, one more and we're in the home stretch for the hundo. That is big news. But before we get there, we've got today's pod, a few things to talk about. How have games been, of course, Flame Corner, of course, at the end. A little bit of discussion on drama, tournament organizer stuff that's been floating around the Dotaverse. And then the meat of the discussion is basically how to stop enemy lineup strengths, whether it's the enemy lineup being exceptionally good at teamfighting, winning lanes, scaling, ganking or pushing. What specific things or general things can you do to mitigate those strengths to stop them using their inherent advantages to win the game? Joining me as always, Marco and Adam. Marco, how are you?
Hello, doing well. Got myself a good cup of tea. I'm sure Adam's the same. Excited to settle down into this pod.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always think that life can't be that bad if you've got a cup of tea. I think that's like a really British attitude, but it's a truism. How bad can it be when you're sipping on tea? I just didn't even mean that to rhyme, but now I'm going to make a New Meta t-shirt, New Meta merch with that on the back, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, that'd be funny if you had merch where it's like notable quotes from each of the hosts. I wonder what would make it out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Adam, likewise, welcome to the pod. How have you been this week?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Not drinking any tea.
Coffee?
No. Diet
Wow.
Coke.
Okay.
Diet
Because
Coke for me.
America has Diet Coke.
What are you talking?
Flame.
Of course. What are you
Bringing
talking?
in the flame early. Thought.
Yeah.
I don't understand the tea.
The tea hype.
Yeah, it's too. First
Magic
off,
tea.
I'm 6 hours before you. It seems like you guys only drink it at night.
Well, I drink it. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is put the kettle on. That's literally the first thing I do. Well, actually, that's not true. The first thing I do is turn on my computer and log into Skype so that my work thinks I'm working. And then the second thing I do is put on the kettle.
Your whole life is beholden to a kettle, it seems.
It is actually.
Honestly, yeah.
You think the patriarchy is like at the core of everything? It's actually the kettle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that you can like track electricity use in the UK based on like you can see the jump and the spike when people start to use their kettles. I think it was like at like halftime of like a World Cup match or something. You can see
Time
the
of
time
Coronation
to put
Street.
the kettle on. Yeah, exactly. Just like now's the time, and they have to like the power plants have to be cognizant of it. They gotta up the power so they can handle all the electric kettles.
Yeah, I can believe it. Dota, though, how have your games been? Marco, have you managed to get much Dota action in this week?
Not loads this week. There's a couple ranked games on the weekend that I'm going to have to briefly mention because that's like the main chunk of my game. So there were 2 losses, really sad. One of them was really sad. I was watching the replay. 67-minute slog as a position 5 Jakiro. If ever you're position 5 going into...
Did you get items?
My Jakiro got... Let's have a look. Do you mean items or neutral items?
I shouldn't have interrupted you, actually. Do you want to do your bit? I just, whenever I think of a late game Jakiro, I just think that hero can be quite fun if you can get farmed a little bit.
I think Jakiro, yeah, definitely can. I did have 4-staff Yules, Ghost Scepter, strong items. Interesting point on the neutral items. So, late game, crazy fights happening, not everyone's buying back. Oh, I kind of got debated by a teammate to have the neutral item where you increase debuff duration. Is it Timeless Relic? Yep. Yeah. 25% debuff duration. So on an ice path, that's just going to be really strong lockdown. Also, spell damage goes up. But I also had in my backpack the magic lamp. So when you go below 20% HP, you get a hard dispel and a bit of heal. And I was like, I kind of want this magic lamp just defensively. They have a PL with an abyssal. If he jumps on me, or like a centaur blink stuns me and I'm stunned and I can't use Yule's 4-staff Ghost Scepter, 3 incredibly defensive items, this hard dispel will get me out and save me. And then in one of these late game massive fights, exactly that happened. PL, he's got that talent where he can doppel rush for about a million miles, came out of nowhere, blink abyssal, kills me in that duration, and then I have to buy back, and this is 60 minutes in the game. I've just kind of wasted a life. Whereas if I had that magic lamp, that procs, gets rid of the Abyssal, gets Ghost Scepter or Force Staff off, could have been a major difference in one of these key late game fights. That's an interesting point. It was an annoying game because basically Ricky threw. He had a rapier. We had 5 heroes alive. They have 2 dead, both no buyback. We know this. So it's 5v3. We're outside the base, kind of waiting for creeps to come. We get a kill. Now they got 3 dead. That guy buys back, so we're retreating. But then Ricky does this like weird trick to the trade on a PL illusion. We know we're not going to grab him, but he does some tricks to the trade. It kind of commits to a bit of a engagement. He comes out of tricks of his trade. Kunka's there with Torrent, boat waiting, dies. I think no buyback, loses rapier. And then we leak another kill. And now it's completely flipped. We've got 3 heroes alive. They've got 5. They go down mid and win. It just felt so bad, 67 minutes slogging. And a really sloppy loss. So that was sad. Then the second loss, just want to quickly mention, interesting because Warden won it, hands down. Vision game won it. Supports won it. Absolutely fascinating game to watch, honestly, because we had no vision. Our supports were really failing / maybe struggling to get vision down, or they're getting decentries. I don't know what's going on. There was a point in the game, one of our supports has like 3 observers on him and he's getting flamed by Invoker. I'm flaming him, like we're losing the game on vision. They're getting the jumps. You've got a Blink DK, he's getting the jumps. We've got an Ogre Rubik supports pretty damn weak. We need to have vision. We need to initiate. And it was single-handedly won by the supports that game. Very interesting.
I thought you were going to, like compliment your teams. Like the supports won this game. The vision was so good, and then like
on the losing side, sadly.
Yeah. You already brought up the flame corner.
Yeah. Well, a bit of flame on the team, but honestly, kudos to the enemy team. I felt like, yes, our supports played bad. We got this Ogre Rubik. You could kind of flame them as being a bit shitty supports anyway. When the enemy team had a Kotl and someone else, and like Kotl, amazing support. But honestly, they just got jump after jump. We had the tools, we had the farm. The game's so balanced, but they just kept getting the jumps, kept getting the vision. We were choked of vision, and the supports just smashed us. And it was just really interesting because usually you might be like, oh, your carry throws or your team just shit and fails. But honestly, real big kudos to the enemy supports because they just single-handedly won that game. So that was also a loss. Interesting games, both of them.
Interesting. Adam, do you have as much to say about your 2 ranked games, or any games you played?
My 2 ranked games?
Wow. Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing.
I went on like an 8-game win streak. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
Amongst all game modes, 10-0 if you include Path of Guardians. I tried that out. It's like I couldn't lose.
Ah, that's such a good feeling.
Yeah, and I played some ranked. I got up to like rank 2700, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm in the 2s." And then I lost a couple. Now I'm in the 3s again.
In the 3s.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Like I have way too much fun winning games, dying a ton. Like I had 3 games out of 4 in this 8-game win streak where I just had awful KDAs, but we still won, and I just love that for some reason. Like I was a Razor that was supposed to be 1, but then we lane swapped, so I was off lane against a Bristleback, and I went 11, 18, and 13, and I was legitimately like 4 and 16 at some point, and we still won, so that was awesome. I won a game as 4 Pugna when I was 3, 17, and 29. That was really fun. And then a Clinks game right after I was 4, 14, and 13, and 1. And I just love that. It's very epic.
Makes you feel like you're Zai.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I was dying, and I didn't even care. It felt like it was the right thing to do, to die so deep in the enemy team. And the Razor game was a bit of a joke. It's like I didn't have. It's like we had, I guess you would say, a 4 sniper and a 5 ogre, but the ogre went first item Midas, and our sniper went first item Necro 3 instead of Ags. So it's like our 4 and 5 were trying to farm when we had a Luna that was trying to farm. So I was like, well, what am I supposed to do as a Razor? I guess I'll just die over and over again and distract people. And then eventually, the Necro 3 sniper eventually gets an Ags, and then the Midas Ogre eventually gets an S and Y and an AC for some reason. Yeah, as one does. And I get like, here's my item progression: 25-minute Atos, 39-minute Hex, 46-minute BKB. I get a Prince's Knife, and I pick up a Rapier from the enemy. And so it's like I have the most net worth on the team out of nowhere. But it was a very fun game.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. I mean, is the Clinks train still flowing, or is it stopped at a station right now? I'm
kind of bored with it.
Yeah.
Bit too easy.
Too easy. Yeah.
It seems like more of my games are going the 4 and 14 way. Like, you can still win, but it's not fun to just like run on the other side of the map and have no hope of getting a kill, but you're just trying to make space. It's like I did that again yesterday. I went 3 and 13, and I killed like 6 couriers because that was about the only thing I could do, and that was pretty fun. But besides that, there wasn't. It's like if the team wants to 5-man, it's really hard for the Clinks, especially when that one was really frustrating because they had a 1-position Ogre and a 5-position Bounty Hunter, and I was a Clinks. So it's actually really hard to deal a lot of damage to an Ogre that's a 1. And a Bounty Hunter just goes invisible and runs away, and then you get 6, and then you're tracked, and it's over.
Yeah, fair enough. In the interest of time, if we want to give a bit of space to talk about this tournament organizer content stuff, I'll race through my games. 2 ranked games. I'm finally managed to get in some ranked. A win on Keeper of the Light, absolutely inspired / carried, and then a Void Spirit mid loss, which is like the classic Void Spirit loss or the classic tempo mid loss where I never hit a creep all game because I'm like running from lane to lane because it's kind of a hectic game and you need to be getting involved, and you're Void Spirit, so you want to be getting involved, but it never like works out. And you end up 30 minutes in the game with like Yule's treads, and you're like, okay, now I'm just useless. That's basically what happened there, and we lost that one. I've got nothing more to say about that. But Keeper of the Light's a good hero. Man, Chakra Magic, you just give your team mana and you just win. I don't know, and you just press Alt. The hero's so good. I don't even need to use my Blinding Light. It's actually probably better if I don't use Blinding Light. And I can use Illuminate to farm. That's all she wrote. That's MMR in the bank. So yeah, that's my 2 ranked games. So, Marco, you wanted to talk about this drama, I suppose. Do you want to intro it? I feel like you're a little bit more familiar with it than me. So
yeah, so I'm a bit more familiar. I'm interested what you two would have to say on it. It all spawned. We played Kyle on the panel. He said, so it basically called out Bulldog and Gork and was like, if third-party streamers didn't stream tournaments, it would add viewers and 40% revenue to the tournament organizer on the mainstream if like your Bulldog and Gorks aren't stealing viewers on their own stream, streaming the games. It was some kind of OTT comment like this, and then Bulldog responds with like 4 tweets being like, are you kidding? How on earth do you think the tournament's losing 40% revenue from my viewers? Like, I'll steal like 1,000 viewers at most, maybe. Like, I have a viewer base. People aren't going to watch the tournament if I wasn't streaming it, apart from like 1,000 people. This is just a stupid claim. Bulldog did these like knee-jerk tweets, and then Kyle did a big blog post. I can't really remember what he was trying to say. The main comments from his blog post were like, I love Dota, and something about Overwatch.
It was about exclusivity. That's the only part of it that I've seen is the Kyle Long thing. It was about, like having exclusive rights is monetarily really valuable. That was like his main point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, he's not even like necessarily flaming Bulldog and Gork because he said he would be doing the same thing. He was a streamer. It's like in their own self-interest to do it. It wasn't even a flame at them. It's just like they're just an illustration of the problem. The problem is Valve won't allow the tournament organizers to sell exclusivity, and it doesn't even matter that if they went exclusive, they would get less viewers. Like, that doesn't matter. It's that you get the money. I mean, ESL did it when they went to Facebook, and it was a disaster. But that wasn't because of the exclusivity. It was a disaster because it was on Facebook. They still made a lot of money from going to Facebook. And the 40% quote was mostly about the exclusivity that's being costed. It's not necessarily that Bulldog rips them off for 40%. But then he knee jerks and doesn't really understand it and Six's viewer base.
But isn't the exclusivity point meant to be that because you can't watch We Play Tournament anywhere other than the We Play stream, you watch the We Play stream, that brings in more like sponsor interest, more views and revenue like that. Isn't that the point of exclusivity? Well,
that's what they sell. That's what they sell to the advertisers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is.
But also, they also just sell, not even to the advertisers, they sell it to the platforms. Like, they can sell it to YouTube or to Twitch or to whatever, Facebook, I guess, if that's what you can sell the whole package.
Was interesting is that, I mean, they don't get anything for doing it on Twitch. If anything, they lose money doing it on Twitch because Twitch requires you to do ad rolls every hour, at least 6 minutes. And with Dota, you can't do that because of the way the games last. And so the tournament organizers get basically penalized by Twitch for not running ads. And so they actually lose money doing it on Twitch. Whereas if they went to YouTube or Mixer or Facebook or anything, they'd be making money from that. What I thought was really interesting was Kyle said, how do you explain to organizers? They're like, I think, so Gork is sponsored by OG, which is sponsored by Red Bull, right? So say you have your stream, your tournament has Monster as one of the advertisers. How are they have to explain to Monster, there's going to be this other guy streaming. He'll probably get about 2,000 to 3,000 viewers, and he is of a rival product, Red Bull, and there's nothing we can do about it. And it affects the amount of money they get from advertisers.
Yeah, but then that's like, so Bulldog's point to that is like, oh, you're only going to lose 1,000 viewers from me streaming the game. So materially, if you stopped anyone being able to watch the stream outside the We Play stream, like how much benefit that really going to give? I don't think it's not the viewer money, it's the exclusivity money.
But if that makes sense, it's the money you get at the beginning with the advertisers.
But then you're selling it to the advertisers by saying, okay, it's exclusive and people can only watch it on our platform. And
and we'll only see your product.
What benefit does that give us? Oh, it'll increase our viewership by 2,000.
Yeah, so I think there's a disconnect between organizers and platforms that you could sell exclusivity to. There's a disconnect. They don't really understand Dota perhaps well enough to properly glean the actual benefit. That's probably the benefit of having exclusivity is probably smaller than they think. So it creates some of these tensions. But also, Dota's just interesting because of Dota TV, like what Adam was saying at the start. This is like, we're seeing the symptoms of it, and like Carl said, if he was in Bulldog or Gork shoes, he'd do it too, because it's in their interest, so sure, you're going to do it. But it basically just comes down to this whole Dota TV being free, and Valve obviously are aware of it in some sense, because they made rules like for new Pre-UA and stuff, like you have to observe yourself when you've got
you can only use the game itself. You can't use their observers. You can't use their panels. You can't use like their casters. So like it's only something you can take the game, because that's the Valve product is Dota 2, but not any of the dressing up of it.
Yeah, so I think the state is
Go on.
fine. So Valve's DNA is very open, like you say. Dota TV, their philosophy is anyone can watch these games of Dota, and so at the end of the day, it's just some streamer goes onto the watch tab and watches this pro tournament that's being streamed to everyone, because Valve's DNA has said that any Dota can be watched by anybody. So then it goes when you go down to the next line, it's like, okay, Valve is just God in this world, and they dictate exactly what can or can't happen. I think the situation, I think it's still, I don't know if I'm stupid or something, but I do think the fact that anyone can watch these streams is healthy for the competition of the stream market, if you like. I don't think we would get as good quality tournaments if you just said, okay, one tournament organizer can show this stream and you can only watch this tournament through one person. I think the fact that you've got a Bulldog and a Gork chipping at the tournament organizers, or you've got competing tournaments trying to show like the same tournament at the same time, or different tournaments at the same time, I think you just help the competition by having this open doors policy, and I think we get really good tournaments because of it. And
Kyle argues the exact opposite.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they'd contest the extent to which having exclusivity prevents tournaments from like going to the next level, because they're always going to be a little bit tentative because of they don't have exclusivity, so they can't get as much money for it, they can't put on as much things, etc.
They say that getting the extra money from exclusivity allows them to invest a ton more in production value. But that's what I guess he makes that direct point, is that I think ESL, they went to Facebook, they got all that money, no one watched, but they still upped the production value by a ton. So by the time they came back, they had all these innovations, and it was a better product by the time they're back on Twitch. And yes, Facebook was a fail, but that was because the platform of Facebook was a fail. The exclusivity dollars was actually really good for the tournament organizer and the future tournaments they put on for Dota. I always feel like it's pretty disheartening to like go to the Dota watch tab and on Twitch, and like the streamers version of the tournament has way more viewers than the tournament itself. That always bums me out.
That's rare. Like, unless Gork was doing a trio stream with OG, I don't think the tournament's ever got less than the streamer. And Kyle threw out stats of like the last majors and minors, and they were having hundreds of thousands of viewers on their streams, the main stream. And I think it's because the panel and the quality of production, I think it's fantastic. I think in the last year, even maybe more than last year, I think tournament quality's been absolutely outstanding. I think WePlay has just blown the roof off recently with how good the panels have been and production have been. Yeah, so I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, I think two interesting things that I think about is the first one being like, where would it potentially lead? So could you envisage a future if the policy stayed the same, where suddenly streamers, literally it becomes in their own interest, say it's the international, you saw a bit of that like North American whatever it was, like Jungle Bash thing, and it's whatever, it's fun, it's like the first time it's really been tried, say in like 2 or 3 years time, you could see some like actual rival production to TI, and given that TI gets like 100,000 views, like easily, 20,000 views, say, on like some side production that gets some talent, decide to do this instead, like it's possible, or certainly maybe Bulldog's streams or Gorks or whatever, maybe they get together with more people, some pros that can't travel for whatever reason, make a better product themselves, and then it becomes a bigger problem because it's not just, it's like a rival production almost. I don't know if that would happen. Maybe that's just like wouldn't happen, but it's interesting to think.
Well, it's possible.
Maybe it's possible, yeah.
I can't see that happening, but hypothetically, that's an interesting one. But Valve just buy or hire every best talent that's out there, so I think you can never rival the TI production.
Valve for TI, sure, but TI is a bit different. But
yeah,
then there's so much potential viewers and stuff for TI that people would go out of their way to like make a good product as well. Even if they can't get all the best talent, they'll get some.
Especially in the non-English markets.
That's an interesting point too. And the other thing is, from the Bulldog side of the argument, I suppose, the pro streamer side, regardless of the money, I would be sympathetic to an argument, perhaps. I'd have to see it made better than I'm about to make it, but I'd maybe be sympathetic to an argument that for the long-term stability of the game, it might be better to have streamers and covering tournaments, because big shiny tournaments are excellent for the marketability of the game to potential investors, but it's not necessarily good for the community, and the community is important for like the long-term growth of a game, I personally believe. So having basically streamers having content open to them to create good content, that's like a pro-community thing, and maybe it would keep more people in the game. I don't know if that's true, but maybe. My overall opinion on it, though, I'm not sure. I think I wouldn't be too sad if they. I think it's fine how it is at the moment, because it's fine, and I don't know what the alternative would be. If they did decide to test exclusivity stuff, I think it would be really difficult to actually roll out, because I think you'd only see the benefits maybe like a year after you did it, or 6 months after you did it, when tournament organizers get a chance to properly market their product and have evidence to back up, claims of exclusivity and stuff. So I don't see it happening. Also, Valve it doesn't affect their bottom line enough for them to care to change the rules, I don't think. Like, are they really making more or less money because of this? I don't think so, right?
No.
It's an issue between tournament organizers and streamers. It's not, Valve doesn't care. They really don't. So I can't see it changing.
I struggle to, my final point would be, I think letting anyone watch the tournament is kind of good for competition. I think it's good that there's choice for who you can watch the stream on. And I think that's a good incentive for the main tournament organizer to put on a good show. And I think they've been doing that for years. That's great. If the issue is, they can't get more money from advertisers because advertisers can't understand why they don't have exclusivity. But then at the end of the day, exclusivity is preventing the tournament from getting an extra few percent viewership. Maybe they've got 90% viewership without exclusivity, but they could get.
Yeah.
But then there's this disconnect, and the advertiser's like, I don't understand why there's 3,000 people watching this guy.
It's not quite that simple, though, because when you don't have exclusivity, they'll also be worrying about how alternative productions, they might bring there's all sorts of issues, like they might bring the tournament into disrepute. They don't have control over how people are viewing the tournament, so there could be a controversy started on some like random side production, and suddenly like the whole event is a bit
so you got a bit less control.
It's a bit I mean I don't know if that is a thing, but in my mind I could perhaps imagine them being like, I know it only affects our viewership by 5%, but it matters more than 5% to us because of these uncontrollables that might affect the tournament itself, or might create some drama like in the community. I don't know, but maybe I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. I mean, would you personally watch WePlay? Would you watch Bulldog stream of a tournament? I mean,
really, I would watch the tournaments mainstream 95% of the time.
I will say what's good is that I think they are sticking to just Alliance games or OG games. So that's good, as opposed to just doing an 8-hour just every game that's in the tournament, just restreaming it. I mean, that would be one thing, but they are just sticking to things that they have actual interest in / ownership of. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Final point is, it's funny, there's a tournament starting tomorrow, and Bulldog's going to stream it. He did an announcement saying he's going to stream it, but he's also going on the panel of the tournament at some point as well. So it's just pretty funny.
Yeah, I think they probably reached out. Yeah. I think that's a good way of like making a compromise. Is having a collaboration.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. That's how you get yourself an invite to TI. Is you don't even need to be good. You just need to have a rival production that Valve needs to remove from the picture. Pay you off to go on the panel or to not do your production or something.
Final point. I like the Stand Pro community point. Like, by having it open, Dota TV, anyone can watch anyone. I feel like it favors the community, and I think I agree, because if you say this tournament can only be streamed by this tournament organizer, and now Gork can't stream it, for example, say I'm a viewer and I maybe want to watch both, or like flip from one to the other, or maybe I just purely watch Gork because I prefer it entirely, you are going to shaft a lot of people who have a preference away from the tournament organizer. Maybe not that many people, because most people watch the main stream, but yeah, a lot of issues.
Yeah, and also when I say community, I mean like also the game playing community, because the more you shift towards tournament organizer stuff, the more it becomes like a viewer experience rather than like an integrated game experience, like when you watch it like a Bulldog stream. Yeah, or like Dota TV, it's like a game thing. Yeah. I don't know. I'm always biased because I feel like, you know, I literally have a podcast about, or we have a podcast about, you know, playing Dota, and playing the game is the most fun part. Obviously, I love watching it too, don't get me wrong, but so anyway. Yeah,
at the end of the day, Gork's not going to be stealing the production value of the tournament. I don't think it's fair for the production value, for the tournament to go, the game of Dota that's being played is like entirely ours, because no, it's Valve's, and Valve put it on Dota TV for everyone. Gork's just spectating the game. It's pretty fine. If he started like stealing the analysis of the panel, whatever, definitely that's wrong, really wrong. But the content of Dota, at the end of the day, it's God's, it's Valve's, Gaben's, so when they put it out there for everyone.
Yep. Valve rules.
Valve rules
above us. Well, we're 30 minutes in. Time to get to the main topic, if we can. Do we just do Flame Corner and end the pod? I don't know. Enemy strengths. I feel like this is... You could talk forever on this episode or topic, or not much. I think let's just jump right in. Would you say at sort of Divine Plus, when you see a lineup, or actually just in pubs in general, how often do enemy teams really like play to their strengths? Do you think that's like an absolute necessity? You need to play to your draft's strengths in order to win? Like, do you see that often in pubs? Is that what distinguishes good players from bad players? Like, primarily understanding what your strengths are and then like executing that very well?
I feel like 95% of pubs, it's not about understanding your strengths, but kind of who executes what they can best can win. And then you go to the top tier pro team for sure, gets a bit more in depth. I feel like for the most part of pubs, it's like who uses the spell like first, correctly.
Yeah, I know, I agree.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, forget this podcast episode topic then, because no one's playing to their strengths anyway, so just don't even worry about it.
No, I think the higher you go, people at least have the cursory thought of our heroes are strong at X, and I mean, they play to their strength of their hero more. It's like a subconscious thing, though, I feel like.
Yeah. I would say that sometimes you definitely have the scenario in pubs where teams don't cognitively think about what our strengths are, what their strengths are. And so they walk into scenarios almost by accident where one team's wins because they're ridiculously strong at teamfight, say, and one lineup's amazing at teamfights, the other isn't, and then nobody thinks about it. Suddenly there's like a 5v5 mid and the team with crazy teamfight wins, and like they win the game because of that. So just to give a bit of pushback to the, you know, defend the pod topic a bit, or even say pushing, a team might push at one tower purely by accident, be like, wow, that was really easy, we have Necro and we've got like Greaves or something, let's just keep going, and sometimes they'll just win like by accident. Dota games are quite long, so I do think sometimes teams just stumble into playing to their strength, not by thinking about it, but just the game goes a certain way and they realise that, wait a second, this constant ganking we're doing by accident, let's just keep doing it for a bit, or this push that we're doing, let's just try it in another lane, or this team fight that we keep winning because we've got Cottle and Black Hole, let's just wait for that to come up again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that does happen.
I do agree. I feel like when we speak about ease of execution, when it's harder to execute your lineup, I feel part of that is because it's a bit harder to understand and realise where the strength of your lineup is. So like you could have a 5 selection of heroes. All Dota heroes have their merits, but you could easily look at some lineups and be like, oh, bloody hell, hard to execute this. or even harder to understand like how you would optimally execute it, and that then comes down to it's harder to understand like your strengths. So easy execution lineups, like you've got a carry who needs to get farm, and you've got a mid that makes space, and an offlaner that can initiate with a big AoE or something. All right, you kind of know what the game plan is, and you know where each hero's strengths are and how it comes together.
Yeah, I would agree. In terms of stopping enemy strength, then which one do you want to start with here? Which do you think is the most value educational content out of these 5 strengths we've got here? Pushing, ganking, winning lanes, teamfight, or scaling. What do you think is the one that's what do you think is the easiest to stop? Or actually, scratch that. But what do you think maybe is the?
I think it's easiest to stop this scaling or teamfight. I feel like the 2 extremes. Where on the scaling side, you're thinking of the enemy team has heroes that want to go late. They scale well. Hard carries, say. How do we stop this? Okay, we need to be active. We need to put pressure from ganks, smokes, take objectives, like really focus on trying to end the game sooner rather than later. So that's kind of, I feel it's quite straightforward. And then maybe you want to stay on that point on if Adam has ideas.
I don't know. It's a bit vague. I'm trying to think. If it was the hardest, I can tell you which is the hardest to defeat is if the enemy has better lanes than you. If they have a lineup of strong lanes and you have a lineup of weak lanes, there's not much you can do to win.
Yeah, back foot from the start.
Yeah. Whereas, team fight, dodge the team fight. Ganking is like vision based and like grouping up.
Yeah.
Scaling is just like taking over their jungle and being active and not letting them farm anywhere. And pushings with ganking, I guess, is how you get around that. Split pushing, yeah.
Going back to scaling, so when I hear scaling, I think of Medusa. I don't know why that's the first hero that comes to my mind, but say Medusa wants to go fairly late. She wants to just AFK farm for 25 minutes. So like Adam mentioned, things you can do to nullify that. Deep warding, ganks, aggressive kind of movement. I think what precedes that is your lanes and control of your creeps is so important. If you're playing against hard carry scaler like Medusa that's AFK, Ancient Camp, say, and you're in a situation where all your lanes are pushed in, you're in a real bad spot, because even if you maybe make that gank successful, by virtue of having all your lanes not pushed, you can't translate into any objectives, and the kill that you get on the enemy's hard carry that's scaling is basically just, there's no real benefit you gain from it. If you kill the Medusa, who's doing all the farming for this scaling late game, but you have got the creeps pushed in, or at least can get towers and objectives, or the creeps are pushed in, you get the kill, get the rush, get the next objective, snowball, that's how you would stop the game going late.
Yeah. I think playing against a team that scales really well, it's interesting you think of Medusa. I think a Storm Spirit for some reason, just like a core that scales very well and can take over the game. Anyway, that's not particularly relevant. It can be a bit of a trap playing against a team that scales well, at least in lower brackets like mine, where you think, well, we really need to be active, play on their side of the map and like run at them. But you can't just do it headlessly, because you often will overcommit trying to kill the scaling core, like trying to kill the Medusa, say, in their jungle, especially if they're a tankier hero like Medusa with the Stone Gaze. The last thing you want to do is like overcommit, like over push into the enemy side, go like all like pedal to the metal, and then have the Medusa get like a double kill turnaround. And so you have to be thinking about like vision on the right side of the map and doing it like meticulously. How would you say you should meticulously take over the map? Is it just don't overextend, like group up around towers? Like, are you trying to force the enemy Medusa's movements around the map? Are you concerned about the enemy Medusa? Are you more concerned about the other 4 heroes? Or is that too hard to say?
I think that's a good question. Are you concerned about Medusa, or are you thinking about yourself? I think about yourself and your team first, and I think you could do a bit of a checklist, honestly, in a game like this, where you you say to yourself, have we got lanes pushed? Or lanes pushing? Is the equilibrium moving back to the enemy's base? Second, have we got smokes ready, vision ready, obs ready for us to then like get that macro control from wards? And can we snipe some of those with sentries as well and choke them with vision? And third, I think key items, if like your core, your mid's going to get a blink in 200 gold or BKB, you don't want to do that commitment to a fight, like you say, before, say, a key items online, because that could just be the complete watershed for a fight going well or going badly. So I think, are there any key items we need to wait a minute for? And then honestly, I feel like if you hit those 3 checkpoints, you're very set to go and clamp down on the game.
I'd also add a side thing that I think about sometimes is in a game, say let's just batter this Medusa example, but it could be any scaling core, so like an anti-mage or something. Sure, they're the hard carry, so in the late game they're going to be the strongest hero, they're going to be the raid boss, etc. But before that happens, in the period of time where you need to be active and go through your checklist, your TACO approved checklist and all the rest of it, more often than not, there's one hero in particular on the enemy team along with the Medusa that is going to get Medusa to the point in the game where then Medusa takes over. So it's not as simple as thinking in your head, oh my goodness, the enemy anti-mage is the strongest hero on the map. Because he's not 15 minutes in. The Medusa's not the strongest hero on the map, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. It's usually their tempo core. They're the most dangerous hero. So that's what I guess I mean when I was saying don't tunnel vision on the enemy carry. Because they're actually not the hero that's the problem until later. It's great to kill them. That slows them down. That gets them carrying the game to be later on, if you know what I mean. But that's not the hero that's carrying the enemy team right now. The hero that's carrying the enemy team right now is that whatever Ember Spirit, like Pango, whatever that hero. So that's the one you need to be worried about primarily. You need to be thinking about where that hero is.
And about killing that hero.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to kill Medusa, 4 times in the first 15 minutes. If anything, that's bad because she'll recover and you'll get into this mind state where she doesn't have a game anymore. And she'll like AFK. Instead, if you kill all the other heroes, because the Medusa can't come to fight because she's a range creep, and she can't do anything. If you kill everyone else because you have numbers, and then you slowly take towers and slowly choke them off as you keep killing the other heroes, and get deep vision, then she never ever comes online. It's about stopping it, stopping it from getting there in the first place. But just by drying up, I was thinking of maybe making a farm analogy. But if you just dry up all the fertile ground, then you don't have to worry.
Oh yeah, honestly, such a good point. I know we've had this in games not that long ago as well. Anti-mage is the prime example where your teammates shit their pants because anti-mage has had free farm for 20 minutes. An anti-mage with free farm for 20 minutes may appear with a Battle Fury and a Manta, but if you're some like fan ball of death and the rest of anti-mage's team is really weak and has no items, etc., there's nothing to be scared of. Okay, or maybe just go 18 minutes he's got Battle Fury or 16 minutes Battle Fury. Like, he is not a threat to you. Yes, his farm's going to accelerate because he's got to be Battle Fury decently because you've not pressured him, but he's not a threat at all. And if you're going to win the game maybe at tier 3s at 20 minutes, you really don't give a shit about an anti-mage with a Battle Fury. And also thinking about how can I gank an anti-mage or a Medusa that's farming versus, say, ganking an enemy core. Honestly, more often than not, that gank on the hard carry and the hard farmer is going to be harder. You're going to be going deeper into the enemy's side of the map, deeper away from your vision, your creep, your objectives. Often it'll be a harder kill to get. Anti-mage blinking, Medusa's kind of naturally tanky. Honestly, the resources you'd have to commit probably way more than it would be to kill a 2 or a 3. Because that 2 or 3, by virtue of the game they're playing, they have to be that bit more tempo. They have to put their neck on the line a bit more. They're going to be in creep waves more. They're going to be higher up the map more. They're going to be less AFK, less deep, less safe than the hard carry of the team. So honestly, you're going to have an easier time ganking that mid or off lane of the enemy as opposed to ganking the AFK hard carry. So really, two reasons that you should put your focus on that in terms of how you're going to like clamp the game. For the points you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I think that's well covered. The scaling, the enemy anti-mage / Medusa, how to play against that. I think it's well covered. It's deceptive, basically.
If I could say something from the other end, being the team that scales is to just like relax. I'm just thinking back. So this game I talked about a little bit at the beginning, my 4, 14, and 13 Clinks game, right? We had a pretty weak off lane. I first picked Clinks, and then we have a Weaver 3 against a CK and a Wyvern. So we're just like awful against that. And the CK gets like a free game, and he's farming really well. And he gets like Treads, Armlet, Echo at 16, like really good. And our mid DK is losing his mind that this like CK has a free lane. And the whole time, I don't even care because we have a Void. Void out-carries all of it. And he hasn't died once. And he's farming just as fast. And it's like, why are we scared of a late-game CK? Like, we have the best hero in this game, and he's free too. So, yeah, I will keep dying all over the map because... Like, if you look at the end of the game, I died 14 times. I gave up as much gold as the CK dying 5 times. He might even have given up more. Like, it doesn't actually matter you dying. If anything, I'm distracting everything. And then, when we hit timings, Void comes through in Chronos, and we get a big fight, and then we take objectives. And we were just making space until our DK, Void, and Weaver all got BKBs within a minute of one another. Then we have 3 BKBs, then we take a fight, then we win, and then it's like one of those things where we push really hard because we have Clinks and DK, and they have different spawn timings, so they don't ever come back as a 5 because we just kill one person and keep taking things. And it's just funny how sometimes it feels like you're down, but you got to think, if we scale harder, if we can just get our carry there, we're golden. How do we get the carry there?
Well, I mean, from the enemy team's perspective, they're in the situation that me and Marco were talking about earlier, and they try and, rather than doing the things we've said, they've tried to scale themselves on their CK, which isn't the hardest scaling hero. That's like a no-no of how to play against a team that scales better than you, is just go to the late game and see what happens. Like, you're going to lose. So, yeah,
exactly. It's like Chrono beats all of it. Like, who cares if the CK ends up having Treads, Armlet, Echo, AC, Heart? Who cares? He dies in a Chrono. So you really should be trying to be aggressive on the Void because CK can kill a Void if he jumps on him. If he's just in a stun duration with all the illusions.
CK's been a spike way earlier than the Void. Like, the maximum relative power of the CK in that game is going to be early 20s when he maybe hits some ridiculously fast Echo Heart timing or Echo BKB timing at 22 or something. And Void's got like 1.5 items, maybe 2, but not enough firepower yet. It's at that spike that you'd want to be clamping down the game and like pushing down those objectives, choking out the map so the Void can't farm and go late. But then once you, like Adam says, make space, how do you play as the team that wants to scale? It's all about space, and what ways can you do that? Adam says throw your body to the grave if you're the 4 Clinks, bide time, drag enemy heroes away, split push really well, stop the creeps, get into the objectives, don't chain feed deaths. You do all these things to stop the choke happening, and then you're at 35, 36 minutes in the game, and now Void actually is a bit of a monster, and actually that CK has just tapered off, and you're happy.
Yeah, it's like if I keep... So the enemy team is Tusk, Pango, Quap, Wyvern, and CK. And if you just occupy the Pango Tusk time, like they just can't they just can't do anything. You know what I mean? It's like that's just their gankers, or if the Quap comes and kills you with an Orchid, he's not killing your Void with an Orchid, so it's fine.
Yeah. We've already sort of moved into other areas. Let's go to ganking, because I think ganking is kind of interesting. If you're playing against a team that's exceptionally good at ganking, just by nature of their heroes, what kind of things can you do against them? Adam, you mentioned like warding. Do you think that's the best way to play against a team that ganks well, is just trying to identify key points of vision? Is that?
I think warding is important in all of them, but their placement is dictated by each of the scenarios. So if you're worried about the enemy team ganking you, then you go defensive wards for the most part. Honestly, though, it's like wherever you think you can get a ward down that won't get dewarded is more important than having the most perfect ward. To be honest, like having vision anywhere is better than having none at all, because since the wards are free, it's just been so much more common that supports have sentries, and then they always they hit all the normal spots. So you just gotta not hit. You can't hit the high ground wards, the ward spots, unless it's aggressive and it's early, because they'll never think to deward their own high ground like that. Yeah. So,
do you cut your losses with warding areas? Is it like, I always think it's maybe best to just leave one side of your jungle, and how do you approach that? As it depends on where the enemies are, I guess.
It's really funny to so the classic is the Radiant outpost area. That's a lot of area to try and cover with wards. And say you die there, and it's like without fail, the Radiant support comes back and tries to deward and just dies again. And it's just you just got to say that area is dark. That's where they were, and they killed me before. I cannot be there unless unless we all go in there together, because they're probably still sitting there farming and waiting for someone to come there again.
Yeah,
but I think that's a good idea. Is like the cut. You got to identify what the safest half of the map is and let your core be there.
Yeah, that's so common that Radiant's tier 2 bottom is just you're asking to die if you either walk to it or walk into the jungle from it or TP to it, because you'll just get collapsed on from the enemy team just sat in that jungle area. So
so much area. It's like 3 observers worth of area to cover, and then like so many sentries to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So cut your losses short. Focus on the one area that you can deward or ward safely. It's so common in that, where you 5 is like, I need to get vision in our jungle because it's a dangerous area. But then, and they even know it, they're smart enough to recognize it's a dangerous area. But then that's what incentivizes them to go, I'll go ward it. But they should have thought a step further and gone, oh wait, I know it's dangerous. That's because enemy heroes are there. So if I try and ward it, I'll die. So you don't do it. You move elsewhere and you consolidate where your team is and where you actually can get vision down. Yeah.
And you can cut the map in half, but you can cut it in half a lot of different ways too. Like it's not always just bisect through the middle river. Like that's the most obvious, I think. But you can also cut it horizontally or vertically,
or through the mid lane as well.
Yeah. So it's like,
what you mean by that?
Yeah, there's lots of ways to do it, and you just got to think. I guess if they're sitting in your jungle like that, it is kind of like through the middle river, and then sometimes the safest part of the map is for your enemy or for your core to be in their jungle, enemy jungle, and farming there. And like cutting waves, and then they come. One person TP's back, then your core comes back, and now they get all the wave that's been shoving into your tier 2 bottom, type of a thing.
Yeah.
You got to make some type of play to push out to the other side of the map, even though it's risky, because otherwise you get slowly choked off.
Yeah, just subtly map vision and map control is so underappreciated. how powerful and important it is. Like, there's this 99% correlation between who's got the map control and who's winning the game. And that makes sense, because if you've got the map control, you've got the resources, you've got the golden XP, you get stronger. You bet you're stronger than the enemy team, you're going to win these fights. But you don't really appreciate how the more important it is to control those hill spots, or to control those ramps, control those areas of camps, which then respawn, you take them and like maybe bail. Or you shove the creeps, and why do we do that? For gold, but then we shove the creeps and it gives us information, and that gives us more control and safety, etc. So it's really underappreciated, the support lifestyle. Another just quick point, Adam mentioned grouping up in terms of how you combat an enemy team that's very gank heavy. And I think, a classic example that comes to my mind is invis heroes like a Bounty or a Ricky. I mean, even someone like an Ursius running at you with a Basher. Heroes on their own are often so weak and susceptible to just ganked by an enemy hero. But when you combine you with an ally, like your power doesn't just double, it more than doubles. And if you want to stop ganking lineups, going around in pairs, or being a support that's near your carry, just to provide that spell defensively, and then you both get out. If that happened, you have gained so much. Like, if the enemy team tries to gank someone, spends time and effort going to make a gank happen, but you, just because you're near an ally and they can offer a defensive spell, and then you both get out and don't die, that's like you've got a kill. That's so good. They've wasted so much time. They've got nothing out of it. You've not lost anything. You've just moved, TP'd elsewhere on the map and just continue as normal. Like, it's such a win. And it's so often in pubs you'll lose games because there's just heroes on their own and they just get snowballed, picked off and die. Just because they're walking around on their own and they're so defenseless. But just with two of you together, sometimes maybe three in the vicinity, like, that doesn't happen. That can't happen.
Yeah, a lot of the time, a not death is better than a kill.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely against ganking lineups. Also, just to flesh out a bit more what you said, Marco, they're such a trap of where you actually position your heroes, especially relative to your cores. I see so often a support will... They know they're against an enemy team that's good at ganking. So the support will be near their core, but not close enough that they can assist if a gank does happen on one of them, and they get all the benefits that you just described, the deceptively beneficial benefits, if that's even an awful way of saying it. But yeah. So they're not close enough to do that, but they're also not far away enough that when one of them dies, the other is like guaranteed to get out. So often you'll see one support basically using themselves as like a ward to soak a gank, but they're not far enough away that the core can even then get out guaranteed. And they're also not close enough that they can't, stun and run or team up and just be exponentially stronger. So if you're going to be, if you're going to try and soak a gank, it's better to like really soak a gank and just run to like the enemy side of the map.
Yeah.
And just be on the other side, like do what Adam was saying about Clinks, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to die here, but I'm like at their tier 3. So that's like in of itself, that's like a last resort thing you can definitely do, especially if you're a support. You can just go on like some crazy mission, as long as it's not completely stupid. Like you run in the middle of the river and instantly die. Like, don't do something like that. But like you could maybe,
difference in feeding.
Yeah. You could like ward if you thought you had a free run. You could ward and just keep going. Best case scenario, you get a really deep ward, which might be helpful to see heroes moving out of the base or whatever. All these things, couriers going out, which lets you know where they are. And worst case scenario, you die around the enemy tier 2, and suddenly that's tons of space. And space is incredibly valuable if the enemy team is really good at ganking. So
yeah, and like take a wave with you on the way out. That's what before, now it's like the Clinks invis get deep. When I was like spamming Crystal Maiden or Lich, you do the same thing, but instead of being invis and you're like running around, you would just throw your ult on a wave. And you would die, but they wouldn't have a wave. And that's, another 45 seconds you've made. And by the time they come back, the wave gets to you, you're respawned again.
Yeah, these are all very, very good comments. A PSA, though, to the core players, that when space is made and we recognize, space, Clink's taking all that attention of the enemy team at the tier 3, space created chat wheels. It's only half the story. The other half of the story is that you have to realize
Have to farm.
have to realize the farm that has been opened up to you, and you have to maybe not farm that deep most neutral camp whilst the Clint have got 4 enemy heroes at the enemy's base. You've actually got to shove 2 creep waves, get all that gold, then get the nearby deep enemy camps, and then farm your way back into your own side of the map. That's how you realize space and the advantage that chat wheel space created is all about. It's useless if you just continue farming in the depth of your woods whilst space is being made.
Yeah, and you can't like see, me die on the opposite side of the map, and you're just AFK pushing a tower, and then they TP in on the tower and then kill you. Then it's like all for nothing. I mean,
That's
part of
bad.
the reason why it works like this 4-14-13 game at Clink's worked is because the Void was 11-1 on 11. Like, he didn't get picked off anywhere while I was being a goon. Like, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and also this is especially important to follow up from what Mark was saying. The higher in MMR you go, and also especially important the more the enemy team is good at ganking, because the time in which you are safely able to show killing a creep wave and pushing and maybe killing a deep enemy camp, the amount of time you can safely do that in a Dota game is fleeting, and it diminishes the further up you go in MMR or the more exceptional the enemies are at ganking. So that's why you have to use that time so much. It's because you can't do it otherwise.
Yeah.
And you need to push creeps to win the game and to farm at the fastest possible rate. So that's why it's exceptionally important to do that. Not because, now we can push a tower. Yeah, that's great. But it's not like you're planning to do some push once the enemy's recovered and get onto your side of the map again. It's just because you literally can't do it otherwise. You actually just can't do it otherwise, or you'll die.
Yeah, the message of Clink's dying with all the enemy team around him is, I know where they are. That gives me 20 seconds where I know I can be in this deep area and farm it and know they're not going to be there killing me or able to kill me, gank me. So I take advantage of that and I get that farm I couldn't otherwise have got without the space creation, and I realise the edge, and our team gets that bit closer to winning.
Yeah. Let's briefly do one more. Not for too long, but let's briefly do one more. You mentioned teamfight being the easiest one maybe to explain. Is it all about cooldowns for teamfight? And if so, how do you create a situation in which cooldowns are in your favour? Is it a matter of baiting? Is it a matter of finding heroes, finding Enigma by himself? Or is it just how do you look out for these opportunities, and what opportunities are you looking out for exactly when you're against a teamfight team?
Yeah, I would. So you want to, I guess there's different degrees of teamfight. Like if the enemy team has Chrono, Black Hole, and Ravage, there's or Vac Wall or something. There's the epic, classic teamfight spells, the long cooldown ones. Definitely play around their cooldown. Nothing makes me happier is when you're trying to kill a Tide, and he pops Ravage to get away. And sure, you don't kill him, but you might as well have. It'd been better if you killed him.
Yeah, now his death time is now one is now 2 minutes rather than just the 30 seconds it was going to be. Yeah,
exactly. So if you can make them pop the ult defensively, that's great. Or in the case of Enigma, if you just kill him first, it's kind of just hero dependent for the spell. But it you never want him to be a 5-on-5, right? You always want to pick off and then run at people after.
Yeah. I think another way you should combat the idea of, they've got really big team fight on the enemy team, is to make a team fight happen when you see one of their heroes out of position. So we had a great example of this in our game this evening. They have a team fight, they have a Chrono, they have a core hero, they have a CM, and they've got a Snapfire ult with Chrono. That's massive synergy. They've got so much team fight, AoE big spells. A way we combat that, and we did do this a couple times, you see Void on the top lane farming, and you know that the rest of his team is kind of clumped elsewhere. Make a team fight happen. They've got no Chrono. 4v4 or 5v4, you've got that edge of the team fight because they're missing such a big component of it. They've not got the Chrono. We can take that team fight. Or it might be the case where, and I've had it in ranked games, they've got a Mars, big team fight ultimate. Okay, we see him TP to this lane, to the off lane. We know he can't TP to the opposite lane. We know he'd taken time to travel there. We know if we take a team fight, when they don't have the Mars ultimate component, we're actually stronger. So often the team fight, you can kind of abuse it and beat it by you take the fights you want to take. You see them one hero out of position, you can take a team fight. You lose the game when you play into the enemy's hands. The enemy's hands is we want a big 5-on-5 clash in the mid lane. Come have it. You'll lose if that happens. You've got to choose the fight that you win, and that will often be the case when the enemy's out of position. Or, like Adam mentioned, if you can do a gank or you kill one of the heroes, like you gank the Tide or you gank one of their other team fight heroes, then you know that's like a bit more obvious. You know you've got an edge if a fight were to happen, or you know that the enemy can't team fight you because they've just lost a hero. So I think those are the two key ways you can combat it.
Yeah, and then in that game, the winning fight, we actually got gone upon by a chrono, but then they didn't kill anyone.
Yeah. And
then we won the fight, and then we just kept going because we knew they didn't have chrono for 2 minutes, and then the game was over. It's like they blew everything to try and kill you, and then we kill Marco Monkey King. But we have Kunkka Rum and then Chin Heals. So they blew everything on the chrono, and you lived, and then it's over. Because you clean up, like you pop BKB after you get out of chrono, we clean up, and then it doesn't matter if they have buyback. They don't have spells.
Yeah. That's the biggest rip of a team fight team, that you can just get run at.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your big cooldowns, you're screwed. And that's why we don't see team fight lineups that much.
Mm.
And then in super late game, super late game, you can use your first set of buybacks or first set of lives to bait out all the spells. And if they don't have refreshers, I mean, that's seen in Pro Dota a lot. You just buy back on everyone and then just run right back again. And you know they don't have BKBs and their big spells.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say, think about it in a slightly different way, although on the same topic of only take fights, you're going to win. In fact, that's a DeMuslim quote, throwback to StarCraft 2 UK player. I only take fights I've already won. That's a DeMuslim quote right there. As in, the setup is everything. And that can be applied to playing against teams with crazy team fight. To come at it from another angle is, like we were saying with Marco's Monkey King being chronoed, but no one died because he got Chen Heal and Kunkka Boat and stuff. You can, if you know that you can bait a spell without it being useful and it's a really important spell, you could play around that. And basically that just comes down to don't give the enemies a chance to get the perfect chrono, get the perfect ravage, get the perfect black hole. Always be thinking about those things. If the only way that the enemy team can win a team fight is with a really nice black hole or a really nice chrono, don't get carried away with taking some borderline gank, like, oh, this hero might be out of position, let's go. Like, you have to be thinking about the one thing we have to avoid is over committing to some hero that looks like they're by themselves and then getting 5-man black hole. Like, always think about the specific strengths that the enemies have. And so if you're against a team that's really good at ganking, then maybe you do go for this 50-50 kill on the enemy 3. If you're against a team with crazy team fight, I don't think you go for the 50-50 kill on the enemy position 3, because if you give them any chance to take a good team fight, you're getting wiped. Whereas versus a team that's good at ganking, you're maybe losing 1 or 2 heroes. So the potential cost is so much higher.
If a team fight does happen. The fight broke out a little bit, basically where the Radiant Tier 1 would be, middle. And I don't think they saw that we were all there. I think they just saw Marco and were like, oh, let's kill the Monkey King. And then it's actually we were all just behind in those trees. And then we take the fight. It's all about timing with the big team fight spells.
Another example.
And even if you died there, you would buy back. Right? If they blew the solo chrono, well, it would be good because it was late game, and it's if they commit everything on you and they kill you, you buy back, and you still have your BKB and all your spells, and they don't have anything, and we just walk down middle. We didn't have to kill anyone on the follow up. It's actually just fine.
Yeah, that's what it makes these team fight drafts sound so bad. You just go, oh, they're nullified if everyone has buyback, which obviously is maybe a bit harder to be the case these days. But if it is the case because it's late game, then yeah, it's a big weakness of the team fight. I
think that's why Void is good again, is because he's a team fight on a 1 as opposed to a 3. You know, that's a discussion for another pod. Like Tide is falling off, and Nick was a 4. It's like you got this big team fight ult stapled onto a 1 position carry. It's like maybe you can make it work.
I think another way you can nullify it, and it's similar to the example you give of that Monkey King game where the team is sat behind me, I'm in the river, and they go on me, but you bring out these saves and I don't die. Often when you're playing against the big team fight team, often you've got like 1 or 2 magic ingredients or silver bullets that can salvage the fight. Great examples is like Disruption, or you're an Oracle, and the crux of the fight comes down to, is the Oracle able, or is the Shadow Demon able to save my POS 1 monkey or POS 1 core? Like, can they get that save off when the big team fight initiation happens? Yes or no? If they do, we win the fight. If they don't, we lose the fight. Often this is the case. I mean, and similar in the one we had, like if they can get everything off and kill me and I don't have buyback, say, they're just going to crush up U4 if I'm dead. But so knowing that, like, okay, we got to keep this one carry alive, be that via the Chen heals. If Chen doesn't get hit by the Ravage or hit by the Chrono, I live. There was actually a case where I think Chen was in the Chrono. You couldn't save me. I died. We lost the team fight. The example you gave at the end, Chen's not in the Chrono. So they've got all this big fight, great, but we've got the silver bullet of heal, heal, heal. They've used all their artillery. It's not worked, and you turn the fight. So often, you could be faced with... It's like you could be an Earthshaker with a Fission. It's like, okay... Or someone with a BKB piercing stun, and it's like, okay, if Enigma can get a full duration black hole off, they win. But if he doesn't catch that hero that can stop it... do you know what I mean? There's a one factor that can completely just end or like just negate the enemy's team fight potential. And if you can recognize what that is and then like really focus on, okay, Oracle, do not get hit by the big team fight initiation. You've got to do X, or Hero has got to do Y. You can actually turn the team fights.
Another similar example, this is like a more done, lower level example than yours, but another example of this silver bullet X factor is if they Chronosphere are ridiculously tanky Bristleback, they'll lose because they can't kill them. So like if you're that ridiculously tanky Bristleback, like it sounds stupid, but like make the enemies make that decision, because you need to be, if you're the hero that can survive the team fight initiation from the enemies, then you should be like in their face, like make it as hard as possible for them to do anything, make it really hard for them to set up for any of their big team fights. Be super annoying. Don't try and play like some passive game. That's just like an announcement. If you're playing like a super tanky hero that the enemies don't want to initiate on, make it hard for them. Make them feel like they want to initiate on you. Do you know what I mean? Like do stuff like that.
And also, I don't think that point's applicable just to say a tanky offlane hero. I think generally Dota players have an aversion to taking damage and dying, but I think in the vast majority of games, there is often so much value of throwing bodies into the fray in order to make space time for a true core or a true carry to do their things. I know I've played a lot of party games where I'm like, I'm this hard carry hero. We win if I'm enabled to like realize my gold value. I need you guys to throw your bodies. I need you to tank stuns or tank a dispel or tank just anything to let me output what I can output. And I know I've played with teammates who are like, oh, but I'm like a POS 4. Like, why should I like throw my body into the fray? Like, oh, I'm just going to wait to use my spells. No, if you tank an Impale, we could win the game because it then lets me get my shit done. And so it doesn't have to just be like so the BB case, like a 3 and tanking a big Chrono is a bit more particular because that's some big, serious focus. And if you can, take that big, serious focus on someone like a BB rather than your POS 1 and 2, that's fantastic. But I think on just an even more general scale, often your allies, if you can soak certain spells or items away from totally where agree. It matters, away from the hard carry, away from your like tempo Quap who needs to get like a big Sonic Wave off or something, you do so much value, but often people have a big aversion to like tanking spells and items or getting stuck in. I know I've been frustrated by that.
If you're a POS 1 Ricky, and the enemy team's got like a lion, say, you just want it seems counterintuitive, but if your POS 4 Morana leaps in, tanks the blink hex finger, you that's so good for your team. Like if you've got a Ricky that then just flies in and doesn't have to worry. Especially if the enemy team has basically one or two routes only to like lock you down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're just winning in that situation if that happens.
Exactly. On the one hand, you've got say the Potom example. Say they're a bit tepid and averse to getting stuck in or dying because no one really wants to run in and die, tank spells. That sounds bad. Well, so on the one hand, that doesn't happen. They don't get blown up. But then the line's able to blink hex, kill the Ricky. The Ricky realizes no value. Or the Potom just goes kamikaze, takes the time and attention, space, spells, items, gets no value off. But Ricky's got this free jump and free initiation to do what the Ricky does, 100 times better.
I think that's all we've got time for, really. The only other two things we could talk about were pushing and lanes. Lanes kind of a separate issue, really. And pushing, we've actually done a podcast on how to stop pushing lineups. Search for that one in the archives, maybe. In terms of today's episode, I was going to do a flame corner on power runes.
Do it.
It's not really okay.
We can't not have a flame corner.
It's a weak flame corner. It's not like a Marco level flame corner, I'm afraid. I need more ammunition. I need to play more ranked games to really just get. We gotta have it. We gotta have this. It's more important that we have the segment as opposed to it. Yeah. Okay.
Wrong ones every time.
The flame corner power runes. As a mid laner, power runes may be the most triggering thing, or certainly the thing that triggers me more often than anything else. Regen runes, there needs to be some sort of inbuilt system where if one of the mid laners is below 50% HP mana, then regen runes just aren't allowed to spawn. And if any hero in the mid lane has a bottle, then just runes don't spawn at all. I'm with Sumail. Sumail's on my side, I believe. Go and ask him about power runes. I think he has similar opinions. But there's the most frustrating thing in the world ever when you both go for a rune, especially in a bottle versus bottle matchup. I've gone top, I've gone the enemy's gone bottom. Now, I'm not saying I'm the most unlucky player in Dota ever, but what I am saying is, if I had the statistics on which side does the power rune spawn on in situations, I'm saying it's max 25%.
Well, I would love to see the study, the psychology 25%. Study, asking mid laners, what chance do you get that power rune onto spawn at 4 minutes?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Bring on the statistics. Bring on the Overwolf section for mid laners that's just panders to their insecurities and stuff.
Yeah.
All these mid lane stats. That's what I want to see. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty much my flame corner. It's so annoying. And also just power runes when you don't have vision of them and an enemy's gone one way and you have to ping there's a missing enemy and he could have any rune. It just feels bad. Is he coming mid? Is he going top? Is he invis? Why is there an invis level 6 hero? Why is this
happening?
Nice
missing call. Nice missing call.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the worst. I think regen rune is the most triggering because it's wow, that's cool. You just got 200 gold worth of salve and 300 gold worth of mangoes from this one regen rune that you got by luck. And not just luck, it's the 1 in 2 that you guessed right, which basically wins you the lane, and the 1 in 5 that you get regen, which is exactly what you want. Oh, I'm done with power runes. That's my flame corner.
What's your favorite?
I love how you'll finally win a rune, but then the enemy support will come up and take it because their supports are actually, protecting the runes.
Oh, the worst. That's a cool thing you can do if you don't know what to do as a support. Around at 4 minutes plus every 2 minutes, just go to one of the spots. It can be so much value. It can be seriously so much value.
What's your favorite power rune?
My favorite? I think DD is my favorite. I think double damage is my favorite.
It looks cool.
It's just fun. It's just fun having double damage. It's really good fun. I do quite like invis as well. I have a soft spot for invis. Hey, new illusion rune is mildly less boring than it was before.
New illusion rune's awesome.
So you get a dispel, right? If you've bottled it and then you use it.
Yeah.
Soft as
Yeah,
well.
Manta.
Yeah.
Manta active, yeah.
That's really strong.
Yeah.
I think that's a underrated rune. It's hard to make it high value because it takes a lot of mental bandwidth. But it's like, I can stack like 2 camps with, my illusions, or if they have radiance or their axe illusions, I can cut waves. It's just like it's too much to think about.
Trying to stack 2 camps at the same time with an illusion rune, that's like the ultimate test of man, honestly.
Yeah,
binding
that's
one to I bind one to my hotkey 1, bind the other to 2, and then try and do some like Gosu AI double stack while I'm not dying mid lane. That's tough. But, yeah.
Oh, what about the double where each illusion stacks 2 camps at once? One of them's an ancient camp. Whoa.
That's like noob from UA worthy, just a standalone video. Yeah.
Well, it was like the Naga illusion video.
I was about to say that. Yeah. The old jungle setup. That was so sick. You could stack every jungle camp with Naga.
Also, illusions for pushing out creep waves is very useful in the mid game and even the late game. You send an illusion to one of the lanes, and your team goes make some plays bot, and you send your 2 illusions to push out top. That's very useful. You get a couple hundred gold, and you can shift the equilibrium one way from the illusion rooms. That is pretty powerful in the macro scheme of things.
Also, it baits enemies as well. Like if you send an illusion rune just in between the tier 1 and 2, or in between the tier 3 and the tier 2, and just stand it there before it's strong enough to clear the creep wave, an enemy will invariably go to it to sort it out, because they're like, I don't want this creep wave just being stuck on this illusion for a while. And that's better than just standing the illusion rune with your hero, for a mildly extra farming speed. You can do fun stuff like that, and usually you'll bait the enemies into responding.
It's just like 95% of the time, it's just a meh rune, but then a late game Terrorblade or Morphling will get it, and you're just like, this is so unfair.
Yeah.
2 more illusions.
Yeah.
Which reminds me that one of these days we need to do a My Flame Corner on Illusionist Cape. But we'll save that.
Next time. Well, thanks for joining me. That's episode 89. We'll be back next week for the final countdown I'm building up episode 100 way too much. You know what it's going to be now. What it's going to be. Episode 99 is going to come out, and then like patch 7.24 E is going to come out, and we're going to do like some boring patch analysis or something. We'll have to see. But yeah, until then, final whistle as always, and see you in a week's time.